Alright, we're just going to wait a few minutes for some people to join into our live for today. But today we do have a very special program sponsored by Carlson and Dumir Law Firm, which is out of Connecticut. So thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. It will be different, like I just said. Our lives are usually about 7 to 10 minutes long. Today we're actually going to be doing a traditional Zoo on the Go program live to you guys. So it will be about a half-an-hour program. We have 5 really special animals for you guys today, so make sure to stick and wait until the end because we will be going inside with one of our very cool bigger cats. So make sure to stay tuned. So we are live at the Zoo and Forest Park. I am Savannah and I'm here with Eric, one of our educators as well, and our facilities manager. We have been in the business now for about 125 years. So we are a nonprofit organization run by board members. So we do have just about over 200 animals and we are still taking care of them during these hard times. So we're still here feeding them, giving them fresh water, make sure they get lots of love and attention too.
Yeah, and we want to say thank you to everyone who already has donated. It's been put out before that although we are closed, normally we would have already opened for the season, but because of everything going on, we've had to delay that. But a lot of people are still very generously donating either financially or even resources, food, and things for the animals. So we want to say thank you to everyone who's been so generous so that we can make sure that we still give all of the animals all the proper care they need even in these tough times.
Awesome. All right, and I see that it's saying it will not let you donate. Okay, so I do not know how to add the donate button. I'm not too skilled with this Facebook Live, but we will be adding it in after post. So if you would like to do that, definitely look for that post afterwards. Thank you so much for reaching out. You can also donate through our website. So if you wanted to go check that out, you can donate through there, as well as even sponsor some of our exhibits and adopt animals as well. So there's different ways to help the zoo out, and thank you guys so much for doing that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our program today. We are going to start with some reptiles. All right, so we do have 2 different sizes of these reptiles right now. We have a little baby who Eric is going to be taking out, and then we have 2 full size of these guys. So here are one of our iguanas. All right, this is Sokka. If you guys have ever seen Avatar before, this guy is named after one of the characters from Avatar. And Eric is actually going to be taking out one of our larger iguanas. So you will notice a few different things. Sokka is actually missing a back leg here. All right, so he unfortunately lost that leg. He still gets around really well. He has a smaller exhibit due to his size. He's really small right now, but he has lots of trees that he can actually still climb in, and lots of substrate he can dig through as well. And Eric has, this is Roger's leg.
This is Roger.
This is Roger.
Roger is one of our green iguanas. You notice that he's considerably larger than Sokka. However, they are still the same species despite size and slight color difference. So even Sokka there can at one day get as big as Roger, if not even larger. We have another iguana, Spike, who's a little bit larger than Roger here, but being a little cranky today, so we're going to leave him alone. Roger likes coming out and visit. He's a good guy. So these guys are primarily arboreal, which means as far as lizards go, they spend most of their time in trees. You'll notice that they do have some pretty long toes and claws as he tries to climb up my face. And at the end of each one of those toes, they do have a pretty decent hook claw. So they don't really have to have sticky pads like geckos or anything like that. They just have these long toes and claws, and they make their way up trees.
And we'll get another zoom in of Sokka. Eric was talking about, they are actually both greedy iguanas, although Sokka looks blue. That color will change as he gets bigger. So he will get same size as Roger eventually. He's just a little guy right now. And we do have one more iguana who is actually away right now. And that is, what was his name? I cannot remember. Zuko, also from Avatar. I was blinking for a second, but he is actually a red color. So they do have a different variety in color, but they will usually all change to become more of that green and brown. Just when they are babies, they're usually a bit different. All right, so do a little.
Now, in addition to spending a lot of time up in trees, they are very good swimmers as well. There are other species of iguanas, famously the marine iguana, but all iguanas are pretty capable swimmers, and without having any webbed feet, they use this very long, powerful tail. They actually have a few uses for that, but first one being swimming. They will swim through the water, much like how a snake or a crocodile, alligator swims. So they use their body and their tail. It's very powerful and propels them through the water. The other thing is when they are up in the trees, besides holding on with their claws, they will use their tail for balance, swaying side to side. And then the other thing is defense. So they, because their tail is so strong, they can actually whip it with a pretty decent amount of force. And for anyone who has interacted with an iguana that didn't want to be handled, they can leave a pretty decent size welt if they don't want you around. So that tail is very much defense as much as it is for getting around in the water and in the trees.
Awesome. And we did get a question, what do they eat? So every day these guys get a fresh salad. So that usually means a whole bunch of greens on a plate with 2 different types of fruits and 2 different types of veggies. They lean more towards the fruits than they do the veggies, but that just includes banana, strawberries, different kinds of melon, and then as well like peppers and different kinds of vegetables as well.
And we always add a little bit of a calcium powder. It's very important for a lot of our reptiles. In the wild, when they're eating food that they find, usually there's trace amounts of calcium in the soil. Because they're not doing that, it's very important that you add that into their diet as well as their lighting, both heat lamps and ultraviolet. Without calcium and ultraviolet, a lot of reptiles that are typically out in the day, so not nocturnal, diurnal, animals need to have that UV and calcium, otherwise their bones will not develop properly.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put these guys back. All right. And we're gonna take out our next animal. Now we're going to switch over to a snake. We do have one of our larger red-tailed boas here. I'm gonna put this guy there. All right, so Eric is actually going to take him out because he is actually our largest red-tailed boa right now, about 7 feet long and very, very heavy. So although I can lift him, Eric actually does a lot better job holding him.
So this is Smeagol, and Smeagol is our red-tailed boa. I'm going to try and see if I can show you exactly full length. So because he likes to stay curled up, it's hard to really see the total length in a straight line, but you get the general idea. They do have a very strong muscular body since they do not have any legs, and they will squeeze it and release different muscles throughout their body as they either slither on the ground or climb sometimes straight up trees. They're able to wrap their body around and make their way up into the branches. So I'm going to try and see if I can position. You can see that Smeagol is sticking out his tongue, and just like all other snakes and some lizards, they use their tongue to smell. So unlike us, we inhale through our nose. We have olfactory senses up in our sinuses, and they kind of translate the molecules that we're picking up in the air to kind of give our brain an idea of what we're smelling, good, bad, or otherwise. Snakes have an organ called a Jacobson organ that's in the roof of their mouth, and once they stick their tongue out, it collects, again, the molecules floating in the air, and then when they bring their tongue back inside, that's when the Jacobson organ kind of translates what they're picking up in the air to an actual scent and determines whether it's, food or a predator. Most people are also aware that snakes do have a forked tongue, so they just have those two tips, which for one purpose that increases the surface area, so there's more surface to collect particles, but also that kind of gives them an idea of the direction that a smell is coming from. So they don't even have to necessarily turn their head to check. Their tongue will tell them, there's a predator off to the left or there's food off to the right, and then they can move from there. Other interesting thing with their eyes, so they actually don't have eyelids, so they don't blink. Just like how they have scales over the rest of their body, they have a clear, transparent scale that covers their eye. And when they shed their scales, that scale covering their eye will shed as well. So we can usually tell when any of our snakes are about to shed because that scale will start getting like a foggy bluish gray color, and that kind of lets us know that they're ready to shed. Younger snakes usually shed a little bit more frequently as they have a faster growth rate so long as they're being given adequate food. As they get older, they don't grow quite as fast, so they usually go a little bit longer between sheds. I can't read any of the questions.
Oh, let me
Let's
see.
see if there are any.
Alright.
So most of our snakes here at the zoo usually eat on a bi-weekly schedule. Younger snakes will sometimes be fed once a week. Many people who raise snakes will sometimes do that, but most of our snakes are offered food around the 1st and then the 15th of each month. And we record and log whether they eat or don't. Some of our larger snakes, like Smeagol, has decided to just refuse food and will sometimes go 4 weeks and then immediately starts picking it back up. So just because they don't eat once doesn't mean there's necessarily anything wrong. I know a lot of snake owners get concerned when their snakes don't eat. But as long as the proper lighting and heat and everything else is applied, they'll eat when they're hungry.
Alright, how much does Smeagol weigh was a question again.
So we go. It's been a little while since I last put him on a scale, but around 30 pounds, 25, 30 pounds.
Are you going to take out Yzma? Yzma is actually one of our smaller red-tailed boas. If you guys have tuned in previously, I think about a couple weeks ago we took out 2 of our other red-tailed boas. One of them is Yzma, and she's our baby. We will not be taking her out today. We just have Smeagol here. We actually did not get to show him on camera, so not today, but maybe we can definitely feature her again in another video in the future. All right, so we're going to move on now from Smeagol, give Eric a break. We're going to take out a fuzzier mammal that has actually been featured before, and you guys might have seen her. She's very, very popular around the zoo. I will try to grab her. She. Alright. She was sleeping.
Smeagol's holding on pretty tight.
Alright, so we have Cherry here. Cherry is our opossum, one of our 2 opossums. And she is a nocturnal animal, so she was actually just sleeping nice and cozy in her blankets. We're actually in an indoor space right now, although she could be in a colder space because they're native to our area. She actually is feeling quite warm and comfortable, so she's probably going to stick her nose inside of my neck and try to cuddle up. Cherry is really unique. She only has 3 legs. She was actually injured as a baby, and a rehabilitator brought her to our zoo. They determined that her leg actually needed to be amputated because it was really badly injured, and she was deemed non-releasable into the wild. So now she lives at our zoo, where she gets fed an abundance of food. So these guys are scavengers. They will pretty much eat anything that they can find. A lot of times when you see them in your backyard, if you ever see them, if you leave cat food out for stray cats, I know this is very popular, you might think that the cats are eating the cat food, but it's usually these guys, as well as raccoons. But they will try to find any food that they can. They're also pretty shy, so Cherry's actually really friendly because we've handled her since she was a baby. She fit in the palm of our hands when we first got her, and we've been kind of working with her ever since. She's trying to go in there.
So a few interesting things about possums in general. For one, they are North America's only marsupial, so many of you might know that marsupial is the class of mammals that have a pouch. Most of them live in Australia, so all your kangaroos, wallabies, wombats, koalas, all those mammals with pouches are marsupials, and the North American opossum is the only marsupial to live in North America. Their pouch is a little bit smaller, and unlike most other marsupials, they tend to have large litters. Most others usually have one, maybe two babies at a time, but the opossum will have a large group, and they outgrow that pouch fairly quickly. So most of the time when they're opossum, you might notice that they actually have all their babies kind of clinging onto the fur on their back, and she will just walk them around with them on her back. Another interesting feature, Savannah could probably turn around and show you her tail. Opossums have a prehensile tail. Prehensile meaning that she can grab things, so very similar to like a monkey's tail, spider monkey, things like that. So while they're climbing around the trees, although they do have very sharp claws, and they're very adept at climbing through the trees, they will use their tail. It's a common misconception that they sleep upside down or they hang upside down for long periods of time. Although they can hang from their tail for short periods of time, it's kind of like if you were to go hang from a monkey bar from your hand. You can do it for a while, but eventually you get tired. Same idea. They can hang, but they don't sleep upside down like bats or anything like that. Another pretty interesting thing about these guys, they're immune to a lot of interesting things. For one, most venomous snakes, they're actually immune to most of their venom, so they will eat, as we mentioned before, they'll eat anything, including venomous snakes. Even if they were to be bit, the venom for most snakes in this region do not actually affect them. Also, they're considered to be virtually immune to rabies. They could potentially contract it. However, the opossum's body temperature is too low to host the virus that causes rabies. Their normal body temperature is about 95 degrees, so much cooler than ours. And the rabies virus cannot actually spread, so it eventually dies off, and it doesn't kill them, and they usually don't transmit it to anyone else. With that being said, if you were to see a possum, even if it were during the day, typically people assume that that means they have rabies, and that would typically be the case of a raccoon or fox. But most likely it's because they were sleeping in somebody's shed, or the tree they were sleeping in was cut down, so they're still going to be scared, nervous. So even though they probably don't have rabies, you still don't want to approach them if you see them out during the day, or even at night. They get very skittish, they are scared. One of the first things they do when they get scared of you, they will actually open their mouth really, really wide and show off their teeth. They have more teeth in their mouth than any other species of mammal, and they'll start hissing. And if that doesn't work, they do what they are very famous for, which is playing dead. So they will just roll over, and hopefully, in their minds, they hope that you'll leave them alone because they think you're trying to eat them, and they think if you think they're dead, that you'll leave them alone.
All right. That was actually one of our questions too. Jordan asked if they do play dead, which Eric just answered, so they will. How old is Cherry? So Cherry is about 2 years old now. Usually in the wild, the possums only live a short life, about 1 to 2 years. So Cherry has actually exceeded that. And in captivity, opossums can actually live usually about 2 to 4 years. So Cherry is very, very healthy, doing well here at the zoo, and we are super happy to have her. She's a cuddle bug. She's really, really fun to have. All right, so we're gonna put her back. Okay. All right. So now that she is away, we are going to actually take this live. Switch this around. And we are moving in on one of our larger tortoises who likes to face the wall when he's trying to sleep. So this is Goliath. He is a sulcata tortoise, and he is actually one of our oldest residents at the zoo. He's about 40 years old, and still will definitely live over 80. So he has a while to go. We get the question, how much does this guy weigh? It's close to 80 pounds, I would say. He is very heavy, very, very dense. The shell that he has on the back is like a huge rock, essentially, and that's actually his home. So when tortoises get scared, they can actually tuck their head into their shell. Right now, he's not exhibiting any behavior of being scared. He's just looking at the wall. But they do also have their spine, which runs through the back of their shell here on top. And that's why you got to be really careful. Anytime you are touching a turtle or a tortoise, they can feel every little thing that you are doing to their shell. Over here, we also have our smaller guys who you guys have seen in Alive before. All right, so they are separated. Goliath has his large space due to his large size. Then we got these smaller guys in with each other. And Eric is over here with two of our other sulcatas.
So these are the same species as Goliath. They're just a bit younger. So Angus here is about 16 years old, and Sully here is about 19 years old. So you can see that they're both much smaller than Goliath was, and they can certainly achieve the same size as him, and also a little bit larger. Just like Savannah was telling you guys, their shell is a part of their spine. So their backbone, so even their neck, as you can see, they can pull their head inside, but their spine is basically curving into an S shape because it does connect to the top of the shell on the inside. And just like their hips and shoulder blades and all those other bones that we have are also fused to the inside of their shell. So they cannot come out of their shell. A lot of times kids will ask, or they'll see in cartoons of turtles popping out of their shells and stuff like that, but turtles and tortoises are born with their shell and it continues to grow with them. You will notice that they do have the ridges on each one of these sections. So each one of these sections is called a scute. It comes from a Latin word meaning shield. And as they grow, the scales layer up on top of each other. So unlike snakes and lizards that typically shed their scales, the scales on their shell layer up on top of each other, and that's where you get those ridges. It's not like a tree, you can't count the ridges to identify their actual age. Doesn't quite work that way. But for anyone else who's wondering, so in addition to each one of these sections being called a scute, their entire top shell is called a carapace, and the shell on the bottom is called a plastron. So those are some of the anatomy terms for tortoises.
All right, we got a question from Nathan. How long will they live, typically?
So sulcata tortoises, also known as spurred tortoises, can live up to 100 years, so 80 to 100 years old. They do normally come from Africa.
All right, and what do they eat?
So these guys, much like our iguanas, are predominantly vegetarians, whereas our iguanas that were out earlier get a salad every day. These guys get a very large salad every other day. So all of our tortoises are on the same salad schedule. Again, we will add some calcium powder on top of the fruits and veggies. We'll do a mix of different types of lettuces, cabbage, and then fruits, as well as root vegetables, carrots and turnips, a lot of high water content. So these guys, because they're native to drier regions in Africa, many tortoises don't actually drink water, so it's also very important that they get a lot of food, fruits and veggies that have a high water content, so watermelon, cucumbers, because they get all their water requirements from the food that they eat.
All right, Jordan wants to know who the oldest animal is at the zoo.
So Goliath is so it's up to debate because it depends on the month of birth, but both Goliath and one of our spider monkeys are essentially the same age in years. I think we've had some debates about which month it was. We have the paperwork upstairs. It's just so 40 years old is the oldest age that we have here at the zoo.
All right, and we had a question. Do they ever flip over by accident?
So that does happen sometimes. There have been a couple of times when they're trying to climb over a rock or something like that, they might flip over. Many turtles are able to flip themselves over tortoises because they have a higher dome shell. They usually have a harder time. We check on them routinely throughout a day, every day. We're here, every single day of the year, Christmas, New Year's. So if that does happen, we check. It doesn't happen very frequently. There are sometimes, especially with these guys together, one might flip over and the other one can actually help them by knocking them over. Goliath is far too big. He's never, in the years that I've been here, been able to flip himself over. But some of the smaller ones, on occasion, but it doesn't happen very frequently.
Okay, so that kind of concludes all of our questions. We are actually going to walk across the zoo to one of our other animals that we were talking about, Black Goliath. All right, and we are actually going to go feed an animal. I apologize in advance if our service is a little iffy through the zoo. But we will kind of walk through here.
We have the iguana's outdoor area for when it gets warmer.
Yep, so this is where our iguanas that we showed you earlier, they do go outside here with the exception of Sokka. He is way too little. He will still be inside. It's actually raining a little bit. All right, and here's our barn area. If you guys tuned in before, you did see our baby goats over here, which are actually located in the second stall over there. So you saw them earlier. All right, and then we have our other goat enclosure. Oh, our donkeys and mini horses want to say hello. Hello. So Carl is over there saying hello to you guys. We're coming up on Aurora. And now we are coming up on our last animal of our zoo on the go, Montana. So Eric is actually going to be feeding her. This is her normal time that she usually eats. She does get raw meat every day. And she is a bobcat, for those who are wondering. She's in there. All right, so Eric's gonna go inside. Montana is very affectionate. So she does like to be pet. We are taking extra precautions during this time and just making sure that our animals are going to be healthy as well as us as well. So we're not doing anything crazy, not letting her lick our face or anything like that. But she is very affectionate. She was actually someone's pet before. So she came to us when she was a bit younger, about 2 or 3 years old. And now she is about 12. So we have had her for a while here at the zoo. Someone was holding her illegally inside of their house. Here, we'll peek through the fence here so she doesn't get too skittish. So someone had her inside of their house, which we know is not legal. And they actually had her declawed, which really took a toll on her. That's actually really dangerous for animals. It can cause infection. It also means that she was deemed non-releasable into the wild. So she actually lives out her life here at the zoo. As you can see, she's trying to rub up on Eric. She is pretty affectionate. All right, so she does have different feeding platforms. As you can see, she has 3 different ones there. We try to get her to go up on each one just so she is still kind of hunting for food. Over to my left, she has a platform over there as well that we will put food on top of, and we kind of hide it around her enclosure so she can still look for food as she would in the wild. Obviously, she can't catch things as well as she would be able to if she had claws. Sometimes, occasionally, when we come in here though and we're cleaning, we do see that she has caught a squirrel or a chipmunk, and she will occasionally eat those guys too if she can catch them. She's still pretty quick, but she just doesn't catch them as well as she did if she had claws. So we do provide all of her food for her. You might also see the white powder on top too. That is actually just a protein to kind of help her that we put on top of the meat. It's a powder, it's a supplement that helps her as well, keeps her nice and healthy. So bobcats are native to our area. You might have seen them before. You probably won't see them out too much. They are also a nocturnal animal, and that is mainly because they're going to be hunting for prey, which are usually out at night when it's really dark. So they are a nocturnal animal as well. Montana is up at all hours of the day though. If people are around, she's going to want to say hello. So she's usually out and about. But she does enjoy things that normal cats do too. So we'll give her a box and she really enjoys sitting in them. She enjoys her blankets and her pillows as well to cuddle up in. And she's over on this area. Oh, yeah. So she's inside there, right behind the pole there. So she has a bed underneath there where she likes to get all cozy on colder days, and we do have blankets for her. But she does also love all types of weather. So out in the winter, since they're native to our area, they know about snow. So she doesn't actually mind the snow. She doesn't mind the rain too much, but she does have her shelter that she likes to go inside from time to time to cozy up. She'll look at us. How often are we doing these live videos? So we do a live video almost every day, with the occasional videos that we will just upload. But we are shooting to do a live every single day with different animals. Today, this video is sponsored by Carlson and Dumir. So thank you once again. But we are doing our half-an-hour Zoo on the Go program. This is usually the style that we would be doing if we are traveling to schools, nursing homes, events, birthday parties. We usually will bring animals there, but during this unfortunate time, we are actually hosting it here at the zoo, which is actually kind of cool. You guys can see some of the animals that we have around the zoo. All right, what do bobcats hunt in the wild? They'll usually hunt for smaller mammals. So if she were to hunt, she would probably try to find rabbits, like I said, squirrels and smaller chipmunks, occasionally fish as well. She will eat the fish that we give her too. Chickens, so smaller mammals usually.
Some bobcats and their cousin the lynx will also go after smaller deer sometimes. Usually the juveniles not quite full grown deer. There have been cases of lynx, which is a slightly larger than a typical bobcat, taking down full-size deer, but mostly it's, as Savannah was saying, smaller prey. But yeah, they're pretty fierce. It's interesting though, if you've ever come to the zoo while there is a chipmunk in there, she gets way down low, she starts stalking, she keeps very, very still, and just all you see is the little tip of that bob tail kind of moving side to side before she pounces. So although she doesn't have her claws, as Savannah was said, because of the person who illegally owned her prior to coming here, she still has all of her other instincts, so she still is very much a wild animal. So you always have to make sure, as much as you want to see these animals as your friends, that you still realize that they are wild animals and you don't get too complacent.
All right, so we're gonna flip the camera around. That concludes our program for today. We hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of our animals. Thank you again, a big thank you to Carlson and Dumir Law Firm for sponsoring this video so you guys could see quite a few of our animals today. We will be issuing a challenge, so make sure to look out for that in a post that we will have coming up. And tune in the next few days. We will be doing these lives, and like we said, we usually do these lives around 11 a.m. Every day, so you guys can meet a new animal friend. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Leave a comment below. We will still be answering questions if you guys have any, and we hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Bye.